every circumstance. That's what creating authentic power is. So before we dive into unpacking that promise, can you share with us your definition of authentic power?
Authentic power is the alignment of your personality with your soul, with the intentions of your soul. And they are harmony, cooperation, sharing, and reverence for life. When you use your life, your time between your birthday and your death day, consciously, and you decide what you're going to do with it. If you haven't done that yet, I'd suggest that you consider looking at it now, because you made these decisions, and all the decisions you make that you're not aware of are decisions that you've made unconsciously. So if you're creating your life and dedicating it to something unconsciously, I suggest that you consider that you are doing that in fear. Now, I know that's a big statement too, but a personality is not just a single monolithic thing. It's happy sometimes, sad, depressed, joyful. It's a complex mandala that has many different aspects. And when one of them is active, you are blissful. When another is active, you are vengeful. When another is active, you're content. When another is active, you're angry. So, as you become aware, and you can do that now because we've entered new territory. We're in a new consciousness now, and hundreds of millions of us are experiencing that new consciousness. You can begin to distinguish between these different parts of yourself. And you can see that in general, some of them fall into a category, and we'll put a shorthand label on it: fear, jealousy, resentment, anger, superiority, inferiority, obsession, addiction, everything that hurts, everything that creates destructively when you follow it. And the other aspects of your personality fall into a basket, and we'll give it the shorthand label, love. That would be when you're experiencing contentment, or appreciation, or patience, or caring, or awe of the universe. All of these parts of your personality feel wonderful, they feel blissful, and they create constructive consequences when you act on them. So as you create authentic power, you develop the ability to distinguish between the parts of your personality that are painful and destructive and the parts of your personality that are blissful and constructive, and then choose consciously between them. Choose what you're going to do. This is another way, Marie, of saying you learn how to choose your intentions consciously.
Yes. Which is a topic I want to dive deep into with you about intentions.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So, intentions is probably one of my favorite parts of the book, and I know Oprah actually said it was the sentence that radically changed her life. And just so everyone doesn't get curious, the sentence is: every action, thought, feeling is motivated by an intention. And I love this idea of asking about everything you're about to do. What is the intention here? Where is this coming from? You wrote, intention is a motivation. It's the reason for doing what you're doing. It's an energy that infuses the deed or the word.
That's right. That's exactly right, Marie. Well, I hope it is. I wrote that, didn't I?
I think it's amazing. And, you know, as I was diving deep into the book and underlining and highlighting, I found myself bringing more consciousness to every act. So, for example, you know, Josh, my partner, we've been together for over 18 years, and I love him dearly. And I can just hear my mind sometimes. Like, my mind gets irritated, irritable, frustrated, I think, like many other humans do. And he had asked me for something, and I could hear the kind of trigger of frustration. And after reading this, I was like, you know what? I can fulfill his request from that space. Or I can take a minute and go, what if my intention was rooted in love, and I can fulfill his request from that space? And so I just wanted to give that little example because it's been making such a huge difference for me. I don't know if there's, yes.
That little example is an example of creating authentic power. you put your finger on it. When you do that again and again and again, eventually you move beyond the control of that frightened part of your personality, just exactly as you did it. You felt a part of your personality that was frustrated. Maybe it judged Josh in that moment. Maybe it was impatient. Whatever it was, you made the decision not to act on it, not to be controlled by it in that moment. And in that moment, you move beyond it. You might have still felt it. And as you develop emotional awareness, you'll begin to see how painful impatience is, and judgment, and frustration. But when you move beyond it, you really move your life. This is what you were born to do. You were born to give the gifts that you were born to give. But you cannot give those gifts when you are captured in an energy current of anger or jealousy or the addictive sexual energy current, or you can't stop eating or obsessively thinking. All of these are forms of fear, and they're not your obstacles to spiritual development. They are your avenues.
Yes, that was another thing I had written down, and I want to highlight something that has really been resonating for me from the book, from your teachings. I love that you call it a frightened aspect or frightened part of our personality. It makes it so that my interpretation is I can feel so much compassion for that part of myself, or I can feel compassion for that part of someone else that I'm interacting with. Like, oh, it's just a frightened aspect of their personality. Like my heart opens towards that idea versus I'm an angry person or they're a bad person or something like that, where it is painting either myself or another with this one stroke brush and then pushing them away.
Everything you're saying is spot on, Marie. And the book you're talking about now is The Seat of the Soul. That is a book about creating authentic power, and you are describing it beautifully. And this is something that's not an epic occasion in one's life. It happens continually. Every time Linda and I, that's my spiritual partner, I get in a power struggle. I've discovered that it takes more courage to challenge that part of me that needs to be right, that needs to prove that she's wrong, that needs to have the last word, and to challenge all of those patterns, all of those parts of my personality that I acted on when I was living in San Francisco, which would be to shout louder, to be obstinate, to dominate.
Yes, and you laid me right up to the part of the book. I thought it was, and this one's in Universal Human. It was so moving to me. I'm going to read some of your words right now because I want to get into this more. You said one of them, let me see. Yes, the new use of courage. You talked about how when you were in the Special Forces, courage looked like parachuting into the ocean off of Okinawa at night, going on these dangerous missions to conceal a motion sensor device. You did all of these extremely frightening and dangerous things with courage. And again, I'm going to use your words. You said, I now use my courage in a new way. I use it when jealousy closes my heart and I choose to instead act from the most loving part of my personality that I can access. I use it when I want to kill someone or kill myself and choose instead to act from the most loving part of my personality I can access. I use my courage when I feel the painful physical sensations of these emotions, and I choose to act from the most loving part of my personality I can access while I'm feeling them. These are examples of the new use of courage. I loved that so much because you spoke so directly into that these emotions will continue to be there for as long as they're there, and we don't have to pretend not to feel them, nor not act if we're still experiencing them, but we don't have to be acting through them. Did I get that?
Yes, I wasn't clear about what you meant about the not act part, but you don't have a choice. No one has a choice about what they're going to feel next.
Right.
It happens. But you do have a choice about what you're going to do then. And that requires some work on your part. And that's what creating authentic power entails. It entails becoming aware, excuse me, of all of your emotions, among other things. So To create authentic power, it's necessary to never deny or suppress or repress an emotion, but to experience it fully. Then you know exactly what it is you're challenging. You can feel the pain of it. Emotional awareness is simply a matter of putting your attention in certain areas of your body, like the most easy ones for me to experience sensations in on my throat, my chest, and my solar plexus. So when you're experiencing any emotion, whether it's painful or blissful, put your attention in those three areas of your body and see what you find. And I'm talking about physical sensations. I'm not talking about I'm happy, oh, I'm light, I'm gay, I'm cheerful. That was a downer. No. That tells you nothing. Those are poetic labels. I'm talking about what physical sensations you can find. When a frightened part of your personality or a fear-based part of your personality is active, and you put your attention in one of these 7 areas, and I'm suggesting these 3 to start, you'll find physical sensations that are as painful as hitting your finger with a hammer or getting caught in a car door. Those physical sensations can churn, burn, throb, stab, ache. What is it doing in you? When you can identify those things, then you're developing emotional awareness. And here's the thing. Emotional awareness is priceless because it shows you when fear is active in you and when love is active in you. Your body will not lie to you. If you hurt, fear is present. Fear is leaving one of these energy processing centers in fear and doubt, and it's causing painful physical sensations. I remember once when I was in North Beach, I was having coffee with someone I didn't know, and I was talking, and he looked at me and said, "Ooh, you're jealous." I said, "No, I'm not. I'm not jealous. I don't know where that came from, but I'm not jealous." Well, now I know enough to understand that if I have a reaction defensively like that, he's probably right. But I didn't know it at the time. But if you're in a case where you're not sure of what you're feeling, even if you think you are, check these areas of your body for physical sensations. And emotional awareness is priceless because if you discover that you're in fear, that a fear-based part of your personality is active, then I suggest that you consider the possibility, the real possibility in my experience, that if you act on that part of your personality, you're going to create destructive and painful consequences. Now, by the way, Maria, in front of every book and every event that Linda and I give, we give this suggestion. I do not, and I'm giving now to our viewers and listeners, I don't suggest that you believe, that you take anything that I'm saying is true, just because I'm saying it. In fact, I suggest that you don't. I suggest that you don't accept anything that anybody says is true just because they've got a pulpit or a book or a television show or a website. Instead, experiment with it yourself. If you resonate with something you hear, try it in your life. And if it creates constructively, if it creates in a healthy way, experiment with it some more. And if it doesn't, throw it away. Don't try to wear a shoe that doesn't fit. When I say these things, it's not as though I'm saying this is a dogma and you need to believe it in order to become authentically powerful, which means to move through life with an empowered heart without attachment to the outcome. You don't. There's so many ways to the heart and to wisdom. And that's one of the things that gives me so much joy. But this is a window through which I've come to see life, and I hope that it's helpful to you as well. And I invite you to try it out. So, trying it out means becoming emotionally aware. And once you're emotionally aware, recognizing because you have painful physical sensations in all or parts of these centers in your body, or blissful physical sensations. Act from love. If you can't in that moment, remember the last time that you were feeling love, not sentimental love. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the healthiest, most grounded, sanest, constructive, caring part of your personality that you can reach for or can remember being in or experiencing from someone else, and try to go there. Even if you can't put yourself there in the moment because anger is raging inside of you, do your best to do that, because where your attention goes, you go. So go toward love.
One of the other things that I have noted here, which I thought was such an important topic to discuss, you wrote, the origins of your emotions are inside of you, not outside of you. Until you see your emotions this way, your attention will remain fixated on people, circumstances, and events. Can you talk more about that? Because I feel like this is a concept, an idea that has brought me so much peace in my heart when I remember it. And when I don't remember it, I feel so much pain. So I wanted to spend some time on that idea.
That idea is central to everything that we've been talking about, which is that human consciousness itself is changing now, and it's changing in a big way. It's moving beyond the limitations of the five senses. We're becoming multi-sensory. The five senses together are a single sensory system, and they have only one object of detection: physical reality. As we become multi-sensory, we expand beyond the limitations of the five senses. For example, you might begin to sense yourself as more than a body and a mind. That's a multi-sensory perception. You might look at the world around you and say, I'm not sure this is entirely random. Now and then you have experiences, and we call them synchronistic, or my, wasn't that a coincidence? But then you begin to think, maybe this world is meaningful. Maybe it's actually symbolic of something. Even if you don't use that word, you can see that you might learn about yourself from looking at the world. Not about the world from looking at the world, but about yourself from looking at the world. That's a multisensory perception. You might look at the way you looked at, you look at the universe. When I was in high school and took the only science course I ever took, no, one of two, was physics, and the general idea was that the universe is cold, merciless, random, and that's it, and dark, and vast. You might begin to suspect that the universe is wise and compassionate. And then you say to yourself, how can it be compassionate? There's starvation, there's brutality, there's division, there's racism, there's suffering. How can this universe be wise or compassionate? Now that you're becoming multisensory, and I believe that the people who listen to your show and your podcast are, that is a thought, that the universe is wise and compassionate, to hold on to when you need it most, when you think that can't possibly be. And then look for what the wisdom and the compassion is in terms of what you can learn about yourself. Maybe you're harshly judging someone or something. And if you really look at it, you might find that the harsher your judgment, the more what you are judging can be found in yourself. So if you see a politician or a business person or a banker, and you judge that person as avaricious or self-serving, you can recognize that these people are not the cause of the world being the way they are. There are proxy actors. They are acting out our avariciousness. They're acting out my greed, my insatiable need for recognition, for something, for love, essentially. And then you can realize that changing them, criticizing them, judging them isn't going to do anything to change the world. Because the world that they're living in is the world that's based on an understanding of power as the ability to manipulate and control. That's the understanding of power that we had from the origin of our species until about a generation ago. It used to be our good medicine. We used to survive by pursuing this kind of power, external power. Now it produces only violence and destruction. And a new kind of power is making itself felt, visible in ways that go beyond your ocular abilities. And that new kind of power we've already discussed, alignment of the personality with the soul. And you said something very interesting and, in my experience, accurate when you said when you hold on to the thought that when you choose an intention of love, it brings you peace, it brings you constructive experiences, and when you don't, it brings you fear and pain. That's because you chose to hang on to a reality. In the Earth-School, which is a domain of time and space and matter and duality, there's only two intentions that are bedrock, can't go any farther, bottom: love and fear. And people might say, no, I can have lots of intentions. I can have the intention to get a new job. I can have the intention to buy a Ferrari. I can have the intention to go skiing. I can have the intentions to have the best dreadlocks in the neighborhood. Those are not intentions. Those are out-tensions, you might say. In the Earth-School, when you follow your intention as far as you can, why do I want a better job? Well, to make more money. Why do I want to make more money? Because I'm lonely and it'll attract somebody to me. That's fear. Because I want to send my child to school. Why do you want to send your child to school? Well, because everybody else's child is going to school. And I want mine to go to a school and a better school than their child is going to. That's fear. Or I want to send my child to school because I think it can benefit her. And whatever she encounters, she may not believe or accept or keep everything she learns, but she'll be exposed to it, and that's my motivation. I want to give to her. That's love.
So let's hang out there for a minute, because I can hear people in my audience from doing this for so long asking the question about out-tensions versus intentions, and I literally heard someone say, so I can't get the Ferrari, or so is it bad to want to get the other house, or to have these things? And if I'm hearing you correctly, Gary, it really is about, well, why do you want that thing? And is there a true loving intention behind it? So like if we dig in there a little bit, let's say somebody wants to get a Vespa, like a little Italian scooter. I've had them rented wise. Is there like a loving intention that is, it's a thing. It's not like I want to necessarily look cool on the Vespa, although that could be fun, but there's a joy that's associated with it. I'm curious of your take on that.
You just did two things entirely different. I could look cool on it.
Yep.
That's fear.
Yep.
That's an attempt to manipulate the world.
Yep.
And how they think about you.
Yep.
And how they receive you.
Yep.
The other was, it's fun. I just like riding this little thing.
Yes.
That is something else. That's simply an attraction to joy.
Yes.
And a lot of my life was spent skiing in the backcountry. And on ski slopes. But I thought it was fun, and it was fun. There were certain parts of it that were fun, but in general I did that because I had a manly image of myself, and being a skier was part of that. That was fear. Every part of that was fear. I was aware of the brand of ski I was skiing. I was aware of my ski boots. I was aware of what I was doing. I'll tell you, the only part that was really fun, pure fun, never was any question in my mind, was in the spring, when the snow was soft and forgiving, I could take a lift up or ski up on skis to a beautiful bowl, and then I'd ski down. And especially if I did it at a ski resort, I could leave my poles at the bottom, ski up to the top of the lift, and ski down without poles, telemarking on my telemark speed. And that was wonderful. I love the way my body feels, the weight and the unweight and the smoothness of it and the beauty of the skis carving through the snow. It was snow ballet, or snow dancing. And that was pure joy. So can you see the difference between skiing, between doing that to impress somebody, to get sex, to get appreciation, to get admiration, or just the joy of being there and doing it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, well, the reason I wanted to peel into that a little bit more was because of something else I highlighted, which was something you wrote on page 45 of Universal Human. If you are surprised by your experiences, it's because you are unaware of the intentions that created them, right? So I was like, this is amazing, because I started to kind of flip through different scenarios in my past and different experiences in my life where absolutely I was creating out of fear, 100% unaware that I was doing that, but that was certainly where the impulse came from. And then I was like, that's how those consequences unfolded. So that's why I wanted to say that, because I could hear my audience asking questions, but what about this? And I also just wanted to highlight this notion that if you are surprised by your experiences, it's because you are unaware of the intentions that created them.
Yes. Every effect has a cause. And if you participate in the cause, you will participate in the effect. The cause is an intention. In the Earth School, it's an intention of love or an intention of fear. An intention is a quality of consciousness that infuses, as you said, the deed or the word. If that energy is love, that infuses the deed. It is more important than the deed. It is more important than how you perform the deed. Imagine two friends walking down a trail, and they're talking, and then suddenly one of them looks at the other and pushes him hard off the trail and into some blackberry. It's sticky. It's a terrible thing to do to somebody. Now, why did that happen? Did it happen because they were talking politics or religion, and one friend got so enraged at the other and they couldn't stand it anymore and pushed him out of it? Or was it because the friend saw a rattlesnake in the trail directly ahead? It's the same scenario with two different intentions. One was an intention of caring. One was an intention of fear, of judgment. So no one can know your intention. I'm speaking to all of us now. No one can know your intention except you. So creating authentic power is intimate. It is very intimate. What you decide to do is for you to decide, and it affects you. If you consider the fact, I would suggest that the universe doesn't look in terms of right and wrong, better or worse, but in terms of cause and effect. There's cause and there's effect. And as you choose the cause, you also choose the effect. That means if you believe this, you can create your life consciously. You can choose the types of experience that you're going to encounter. And if you do choose to believe it, know that there are probably, I'm going to guess, 4 or 5 billion people that agree with you. This is karma. Karma is another name for the universal law of cause and effect. The universal law of cause and effect is the impersonal, universal teacher of responsibility. What you choose creates consequences in the experience of others, and you yourself will experience those experiences. Say, for example, you betray someone. maybe you were engaged to get married, and you were walking down the aisle, and you couldn't do it. You couldn't do it, and you left right then. Well, that betrayal is something that experience of being betrayed will come back to you. Now, I picked a complicated example. It's much more complex than that because sometimes there's a good reason for not walking down the aisle, and somebody realizes it, and they have the courage to say, I'm not going to do this, and it's a good reason. It's not just fear. It's seeing what's happening. But the point is, if you do betray someone, say you embezzle money from a friend, or you understand what I'm talking about.
Yes.
You yourself will be betrayed. And it's not necessarily someone embezzling from you. It could be someone not showing up for your wedding. It could be a platoon leader who abandons you in combat. In whatever way this message comes back to you, this experience, it may have different clothing than it had when you sent it, but you'll recognize the message. You've been betrayed, and the pain, and the shock, and the dismay, and the disbelieving, and then the agony that you activated in someone else, you will experience. Now, I'm not saying that all of the 4 or 5 billion people who believe in this really believe in it. They just have been taught it, and they accept it as so because an authority, a religious institution, has told them. In our country, which is mostly Christian, Christians are told that love is the basis of your life when it's meaningful and worthwhile, and the model is the Christ. And the Christ made this real clear. Do you love your neighbor enough to die for your neighbor? Well, what would the world be like if every Christian lived that, not believed it, felt that? What would the world be like if every Buddhist not only believed that consciousness and responsibility continue after the body dies, and never blamed anybody for anything? What would that world be like? But all Buddhists and all Hindus believe in reincarnation and karma. Now, the new consciousness is bringing us to the reality of these things. And we can see for ourselves what we previously had to believe or take on faith. Creating authentic power is becoming the authority in your own life. It no longer works to say, the devil made me do it. It is a fear-based part of your personality that is speaking to you. It is not a temptation. Temptation is something else. Temptation is a dress rehearsal for a negative karmic event, giving you another opportunity to choose consciously to act or speak with an intention of love. That's all that we're talking about, is living a conscious life. And creating authentic power transforms your life into an ongoing meditation, a heartfulness meditation. Don't worry, everything that you learned in mindfulness meditation applies, very much applies. But as you create authentic power, your meditation becomes intentional. The intention is to act with love and to eliminate the intentions of fear in your life. And it's doable. It's doable. I haven't done it yet, but I've gone as far as I have. From a motorcycle riding, drug doing, sexually addicted, narcissistic, full of myself, macho guy that thought he was cool. Looking back, I can see why some of my relationships didn't work.
Oh my goodness, I adore you.
If I could come even this far, you can come farther. You can come farther. You can. I'm not trying to convince you because that would be pursuing external power. But I can give you tools for you to experiment with as they were given to me. And then you can see what they do in your life. What are you going to use your life for? You pointed out, Marie, that when you acted with love, it gave you peace. That's because love is real. And when you acted in fear, it didn't. That's because fear is not. Fear is an illusion. So you might say that when you act on the illusion, you create painful consequences. The illusion is that domain of experience in the Earth School that is fear. Whenever you fear, which means whenever you judge, whenever you're angry, or jealous, or vengeful, or feel inferior and need to please, or feel superior and entitled, or can't stop thinking about someone who's going to be your savior. I've got to have her. Oh, he's got to be mine. Or you can't stop eating, or drinking, or looking for sex, or gambling, or shopping, or any of the things that are appear to be beyond your control. You are in the illusion. You are controlled by the things of the earth, put it that way. But how to live in that learning environment, which is the Earth School, which is what you're in now, consciously, and choose between love and fear, which is the fundamental duality in this realm of dualities. Then you move toward fullness, toward creativity, toward vitality, toward meaning, toward purpose, toward richness, toward health. And the gifts that you were born to give begin to call you to them. And you begin to be aware enough to listen to the call and to experiment. Maybe I shouldn't be a doc. Maybe I'm a doc because my mom was a doc. Maybe I want to be a landscape architect. And you begin to experiment. It's your life. What are you living it for? Fear or love? Well, the answer right now is probably mostly for fear. And if you have a reaction to that, pay attention. Because whenever somebody says something and you react to it, I'll put it in first person. Whenever anybody says anything to me, like you're jealous, if I have a reaction to it, I know that I should listen. Whenever it says to me, do you think that comes from fear? If I get angry, if I say, well, look, why talk about this now? And why are you always telling me what to do? Then I know that she's just told me something that I could benefit from listening to.
Yes.
But if I'm not doing any of those things, I won't have a reaction. No, that's not what I'm doing now. And there won't be an emotional charge to it.
Gary, this has been so incredible. I cannot thank you enough for our time together today. And of course, this gorgeous new book, which I hope everyone gets and reads. Is there anything as we wrap up that you just want to leave people with today?
Be gentle with yourself.
Be gentle with yourself.
It's not easy being in the Earth School. No one has an easy time in it. Because it is the domain of experience that a part of you that existed before you were born chose. It volunteered its self in a larger sense to participate in the domain of physicalness and to evolve in that domain and to evolve itself, to mature its personality and help its soul evolve. By developing emotional awareness and the conscious use of its volition. Your being here is not accidental. Your origin is not merely biological. Your creative capacity is far beyond what you can now imagine. And if you give all that you can to life, like that with a capital L, you'll receive in return more than you can imagine. Well, that's more than one thought, Marie, but perhaps it's an energy or a flavor, and I'd like to leave that.
Thank you so very much for being here with us, Gary, and congratulations.